Welcome to 10-minute book reviews. I'm 10. If you subscribe to this channel, then you know that I usually have my friend 2 with me, but she is on vacation, so hopefully she'll be back next week. We are going to do another book review. We do have one down the pipeline, so that should be ready on Monday. But yes, so today we're going to do something a little different. When I started this channel, I didn't do a Booktube Newbie Tag to introduce myself. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do the Booktube Newbie Challenge or Tag. So I'm just going to get into it and answer the questions. So here we go. Why did you start this channel? Okay, so the reason why I started this channel was because in my personal life, when I would go to look for a book, sometimes when I would read the review, it wouldn't be accurate, or sometimes there'd be so much hype in regards to a particular book, and then I go to get it, or so much hype in regards to a particular author, and then I go to get it, and the book just fell flat. And so most of the hype was based upon either other works the author has done, or it was based upon the genre itself, like latest YA, latest fantasy, you know. So I wanted to provide a platform where there would be honest book reviews, which means like even if this story was a crappy story with a good ending, you know, I enjoyed the good ending. Crappy story, enjoy the good ending. Also, I wanted a look at indie books as well, because when you go on YouTube or different review websites, what you don't see a lot of are indie reviews. So like, you know, indie book reviews, and those authors work really hard to provide exceptional content, but you know, you don't really get to see the reviews on it. So that's why I started this channel, to provide open and honest book reviews. Okay, next one. What are some fun and unique things you bring to Booktube? Okay, so generally it's 2 of us. Pardon me, it's been me recently, but generally there's 2 of us. So what we bring to it are 2 opinions to one book, generally. So, you know, 2 people read the same story, feel differently, fall in love with different characters, fall in love with different plots if it's different subplots within one story. And so we bring different points of view. Also, 2, something that we do that's really fun, we tell you, you know, just from our own minds, if this was a movie, if the book was a movie, what actor or actress would be good to play their part, the part of the character. This is good for some people who say they don't like to read because it's hard for them to imagine. And that doesn't make them a bad person. I can imagine an entire scene in my head, write the whole thing out, details possible, hand me a palette, I can't paint it. Can't do it. Can see it vividly in my head, I can write it out, can't paint it. So, you know, some people just, their imagination doesn't work in the same way as others. So what we do is, we read the book, take the descriptions of the character in the book or characters in the book, and look at the movies that we've seen, or even look at different actors and actresses and say, hey, so-and-so would do a good job as this person. And so in the reviews we say that. So if you do decide to read the book, you have a mental image of what the person looks like, kind of. So it makes it a little easier to put a face to the fiction, if that makes sense. So those are 2 fun things we like to do. Give 2 opinions, or opposing opinions sometimes. And also let you know if it was a movie, what actor or actress are you playing each character, each main character. What are you most excited about what are you most excited about for this new channel? Growth. So I would like to feel like within maybe a year to 2 years, maybe 3 years of this channel being active, that people, when they hear 10-minute book reviews, I want that name to be synonymous with open and honest book reviews. So I want people to not think of us as fangirls or publishing house girls or anything like that. I want people to think of us as actual reviewers. Like, we've read the book, we're telling you what we think about the book and why we think about it in that way. And so I'm hoping that we grow, I would suppose, in credibility. That's how I would answer that one. Why do you love reading? So for that, I'm going to try and shorten this answer up. Growing up, you know, my parents did the best that they could. You know, I never went hungry. I never went without clothes. Always had a roof over my head. Unfortunately, we did not live in the best of areas. We lived in a very dangerous area, and not having a lot of finances, it's kind of hard to move out of an area when you can barely afford to live there at that time. So, books were escapism. We really couldn't go outside because the neighborhood wasn't that great. So my mother would keep all of the children inside the house, because what the other option would be us going outside and having to engage with a world that wasn't the safest. And I know you may think, oh, all worlds are kind of crazy, but the part of New Jersey that I'm from was a bit crazier than most during my childhood. So our safe place, you know, my mom would take us to the library sometimes. If we did go out, like after school, we would go to the library. And so library became synonymous with safe place aside from home. And so what are you going to do at the library? You're going to play games, you're going to watch movies, you know, because they had the little the little children's section back then. They don't have it there at that library anymore, but they had a little children's section. And also the major thing, you're going to read books. And books provided me with escapism. I didn't have to see the streets. I didn't have to see the violence. I could escape into another world where there are bears who live in this adorable tree house, and it's a mama bear and a daddy bear and brother bear and sister bear. I know if you read Bernstein Bears, you know that reference. So yeah, reading was escapism. I got to escape my world, and I got to visit new worlds. So yeah, that's why I love reading. It reminds me of a safe place, and it provides me with escapism. Okay, what book or series got you into reading? So, as I mentioned, Bernstein Bears when I was little, but I would say the first like big book, like chunky book, chapter book that I've read that got me into reading would be Pearls of Lutra. So I was at my school's library just chugging along because, like I said, library, safe place, yay. So I found this book with a very determined looking otter on the front of it. I'm like, okay, anthropomorphic warrior, okay. I took it home and I fell in love. I would just sit or lay, either one, on my bed all day reading this book, Pearls of Lutra by Brian Jakes. And there were warrior mice, there were warrior otters. I remember one character that I fell in love with from Pearls of Lutra was Tansy. She was a hedgehog, and she would, you know, take care of this little toddler squirrel. They called the little toddlers Dibbins. They were so cute. And his name was Arvin. And in the next book, Arvin becomes a warrior of Red Wall. And so I ate that book up, ate it up. I'd be sitting on my bed eating pretzels because they're cheap and you can get a lot of them. And I ate that book up. And after that book, I went looking for more books by Brian Jakes. Now, I want to say that it's a series, but in all, I don't really think... I would call it more of an anthology than a series. Different books as an anthology. The only reason I'd say that is because not all the books connect. So you could read one book, and you could read it in perfect order, like the years that they were printed, but you could read one book that talks about one thing, and the next book has a different setting with different characters. They may mention the other ones in passing, but yeah. So I fell in love with that particular book and that particular author. The series that got me into writing was the Jedi Apprentice series by Jude Watson. So the Star Wars movie with Anakin and Padme, now that First Hope, I forget the name of the movie now, just I'm talking. As you can see, I didn't go over these questions before I got on. But yes, so New Hope. Was it New Hope? I think it's no. It's the one with Anakin when he's a little kid, and Padme and Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan when Obi-Wan was a Padawan. And I saw that movie and I fell in love. I love sci-fi, I love fantasy, and that put me in a totally new world where I wanted to be a Jedi. I was so young and I wanted to be a Jedi. So my parents, we were all food shopping at Pathmark, and we went to, I know Pathmark's defunct, so someone may be watching, it's like, what is Pathmark? It's like ShopRite or Kroger's. Kroger's on a larger scale. So yeah, we were at Pathmark and we were in the book section, and I saw Jedi Apprentice, book 1 and book 2. And when I looked at it, like, hey, that's Obi-Wan as a Padawan learner, you know, when he was younger, like a 12 or 13. And that's Qui-Gon. So I'm like, okay, Mom, Dad, can I have this? And the book's like $6 each, so that's $12. And like when you're food shopping for 6 people, $12 is a lot of money to spend on something that's not food. But they bought it for me. And I ate those books up. I read them over and over and over and over again. And when I found out there was a 3 and a 4, I'm like, Mom, Dad, can I have 3 and 4? And so what my parents ended up doing was, we didn't live by Barnes & Nobles. There was no Barnes & Nobles. Some people had Borders. We didn't have that either. And, you know, we didn't have a computer because, you know, didn't have a computer. So Amazon wasn't an option either. And they didn't have the Jedi Apprentice series at the local library. Apparently, they didn't think that people in my geographical area would like to read those kind of books. And so what my mom would do is, there was a bookstore downtown. It's now a law office. Pay paradise and put up a parking lot. Yeah. So it was a bookstore, and Mom and Dad would, I think it was NJ Books, something like that. And my mom would go down there and say, hey, can you order this, 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 and this? And she would, you know, give them money, and they would order the books when they came out. And so I had every single Jedi Apprentice book, even the special editions, which showed Obi-Wan as Anakin's teacher and, you know, Anakin as a Padawan learner. I had every single book in the series, and I loved it so much. It was so immersive. I felt like I was in a different world, literally. So yes, the book that made me love reading was Pearls of Lutra by Brian Jakes, and the series that made me love reading was the Jedi Apprentice series by Jude Watson. Okay. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? So right now my favorite booktuber is the Wild Sasha. I'll leave a link to her page in the description. If I could ask her anything, it would be, how do you find the time to do so much reading? Like, how do you find the... I would love to be able to read literally all the time. I mean, I guess nobody reads all the time, but I'd love to be able to read as much as I did when I was a kid. But because I'm grown, I'm married, I have a baby, I have a job, I can't do as much as I'd like to do. So yeah, I'd probably ask her, how does she manage her time so well? How does she do her editing? Her editing was always so on point. So yeah, the Wild Sasha, how do you do your editing, and how do you find the time to read so many wonderful books? What challenge do you think starting a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? I'm going to try to not get too heavy when it comes to this, but in the way of a challenge, a lot of people look at African Americans and think that we don't read. A common joke is, oh, you want to hide something from a black person? Put it in a book. They'll never find it. And that's not true. We're actually one of the largest purchasers of digital literature. That's why urban fiction does so well. There's no way to oversaturate the urban fiction book section, because there's always someone who's going to buy it. I'm not really into urban fiction, but it's a huge genre because we do have a large buying power when it comes to literature. But that was something that Chu and I kind of worried about, like when people see our faces and say, oh, did they actually read the book or just the jacket? I don't know if those black people read that. So that's really the biggest thing, overcoming people's stigma and stereotypes, and completely wrong stigma and stereotypes. The only reason why black people didn't read like centuries ago is because it was illegal to teach us how to read. And then when reading became something that we could do, we had poorly funded schools, poorly set up schools, and so basically people knew the basics of reading, but that was it. And so you had to just learn how to survive without it, with just the basics. And so it said, black people don't read, because of course if you've only learned to a first grade level of reading, how are you going to enjoy a big novel or Shakespeare or something to that effect? And so yeah, that's my biggest challenge, or hardest challenge, would be people looking at me and automatically assuming that I'm not a reader because of the color of my skin, not because of the content of my words. Next one. I'm gonna overcome it though, and the people who do look at me and think that they don't have to subscribe, they can move along. When did you start reading? So I started reading when I was young, because I have older brothers and sisters, and so because they were going to the library, I wasn't staying at home by myself, I was going to the library too. So maybe around 5, 6, maybe 4, somewhere in that, when I started reading chapter books, so like the longer books, I saw Pearls of Lutra. This isn't when the book came out, but I think I was in 7th grade when I saw Pearls of Lutra, and then 8th grade for the Jedi Apprentice books. So I would say about 12, 13. Where do you read? I read everywhere. So one of the benefits of growing up poor is you acclimate very well to most situations that you find yourself in, because you have no choice. There are no other options. There's no other rooms. There's no other houses. This is where you are. This is where you will do everything you have to do at. So if I need to read while I'm sitting on the floor, I will read sitting on the floor. If I need to read sitting in a chair, I'll read sitting in a chair. I have no happy place. I have no nook. I have no corner. I have no library in my home. And for everyone who's wondering, yes, I do live in a home. I live in an apartment. I have a bed. So I'm not sleeping on the floor or anything. But yes, so I have no particular happy place to read. I will read everywhere except for the driver's seat while I'm driving. I'll read in the driver's seat, but just, while my mother's shopping or something, or my sister's shopping, I'll just be sitting in the parking lot reading. But yes, I will read everywhere. I don't have a special place. Oh, we're down to the last question. What kind of books do you like to read? I'm eclectic in my tastes, so I will read anything. However, what I will gravitate towards will be sci-fi and YA. And if I can find a sci-fi that's YA, or YA that's sci-fi, or even fantasy that doesn't have magic in it, because I hate magic. It's such a cop-out. Such a cop-out. But yes, I generally gravitate towards YA and science fiction. So that has been my Booktube Newbie Challenge. Just to show you a couple of other things we did over the weekend. We were supposed to go see Mortal Engines, but the weather was kind of poor, so instead we went to Walmart and to Barnes & Nobles, and look what I found at Walmart. Isn't it pretty? Ooh. I'm not sure what its original purpose is for, but it was $1, so I'm going to use it for a bookmark. I put tape on the bottom so that it isn't too sharp at the edges, so it doesn't cut a book. And got this one. Ooh. Also went to Barnes & Noble and got another book that I've been thinking about for a while. I think we're going to review this. I'm not 100% sure, but I think we are going to review it. It's Red Rising by Pierce Brown. Red Rising by Pierce Brown. So just to let you know what this one is about. Darrow is a red and member of the lowest caste in the color-coded society of the future. Like his fellow Reds, he works all day believing that he and his people are making the surface of Mars livable for the future generations. He toils willingly, knowing that his blood and sweat will one day result in a better world for his children. But Darrow and his kind have been betrayed. Soon he discovers that humanity already reached the surface generations ago. Vast cities and sprawling parks spread across the planet. Darrow and Reds like him are nothing more than slaves to a decadent ruling class. Inspired by a longing for justice and driven by the memory of his lost love, Darrow sacrifices everything to infiltrate the legendary Institute, a proving ground for the dominant gold caste, where the next generation of humanity's overlords struggle for power. He will be forced to compete for his life and the very future of civilization against the best and most brutal of society's ruling class. There, he will stop at nothing to bring down his enemies, even if it means he has to become one of them to do so. So sounds very interesting. I don't know why. I'm getting kind of a Russian feel from the inside. I don't know. But sounds cool. So thank you so much for watching my Booktube Newbie Tag. And we hope to see you again next Monday for our next review. Bye!